Sokudo doesn't accept reservations. It accepts confessions. The question on its site is a diagnostic tool, a psychic probe that maps the contours of your deepest, unmet desires. The answer isn't processed by an algorithm, but by the restaurant's living menu core, a captured, stabilized quantum anomaly that resonates with human longing. Your confessed hunger becomes the blueprint for your meal. The confirmation isn't a time, but a command to arrive at the moment of the city's deepest unconsciousness and to come as a blank slate. The feast begins not at the table, but the moment you press send. Sokudo's supply chain is invisible. Regret farmers work the emotional weather of Tokyo, harvesting the ambient psychic residue of paths not taken, words unsaid, loves unfulfilled. These are not full memories, but they're emotional fingerprints, the what-if particles that linger around every human. More rare and valuable are solidified choices, actual moments of decision, violently extracted from people who have undergone radical memory editing in the restaurant's black clinic. These become the protein of the menu. The most prized ingredient of all is a stillborn future, the complete, unrealized potential life of a person who died young. Cooking at Sokudo is reality alchemy. Ingredients aren't heated, they are collapsed. A chef might take a harvested regret of not emigrating and using focused intention and causal manipulation, collapse its infinite possibilities into a single, tangible flavor note. The taste of San Francisco fog on a specific mist morning. The kitchen's equipment manipulates weak points in causality, gently pressuring quantum superpositions into classical, edible states. Each dish is a served paradox, a moment that never was, made irrevocably real. Through consumption, the meal opens not with flavor, but with identity theft and donation. The amuse-bouche is a calibrator designed to loosen the diner's psychic boundaries. It contains 2 stolen firsts, one reclaimed from the diner's own forgotten past, a psychic appetizer, and one borrowed from the menu's larder. This creates a temporary permeability, a confusion of self and other that prepares the palate, the soul, for the more intense courses to come. The diner's own life becomes the plate on which other lives are served. The most dangerous side effect of the Convergence menu is flavor amnesia. The mind, overwhelmed by the vivid, potent experiences of consumed lives, begins to discard its own original memories to make cognitive space. It prioritizes the intense, curated flavors of others over the mundane data of the self. Victims don't become empty. They become crowded with strangers' best moments, while their own past erodes like coastline. Arisa Wake, once Tokyo's most feared critic, now wanders gourmet shops in a state of profound, luxurious loss, chasing the ghost of a taste that stole her from herself. Not all ingredients are ambient. For foundational flavors, umami of purpose, bitterness of betrayal, the menu requires primary sources. These are the empty ones. Through a process called ethical harvesting, a term Sokudo uses with chilling irony, individuals in desperate situations trade a core memory for a life-changing sum. The memory is extracted, but the hollow space it leaves doesn't fill. The person remains functional, but anchorless, a walking seasoning jar. Yuji doesn't remember his daughter's birth, but somewhere, a billionaire is savoring the profound, salty sweet joy of it as a palate cleanser between courses. Sokudo's beverage program is its most audacious aspect. The quantum sommelier doesn't pair food with wine, but with potentialities. He serves tiny doses of collapsed quantum states, literal moments of decision suspended in metastable form. Drinking them doesn't intoxicate. It temporarily expands the drinker's perception, allowing them to experience the parallel emotions of the road not taken that complements their memory dish. It's synergistic time travel. The pairing creates a resonant third experience in the mind of the diner, a hallucination of a complete alternative life story built from the harmonic clash of two unrealized realities. Sokudo's true asset is the flavor bank, a library of distilled human experiences. Here, memories are not stored as data, but as self-sustaining emotional loops, crystallized in a medium of synthesized nostalgia and quantum foam. Master chefs withdraw these essences to build dishes. The bank is curated like a wine cellar, with vintages and terroirs. A 1980s bubble economy elation tastes different from a 2020s pandemic resilience. The rarest holdings are primals, pre-linguistic emotions from early childhood or even ancestral trauma, sought after for their pure, uncomplicated potency. The greatest taboo at Sokudo is to leave a course unfinished. A served dish is a quantum state, forced into reality. Rejecting it doesn't just waste food, it creates a paradox feedback loop. The collapsed potential, now unanchored by consumption, violently re-expands, seeking its original state of possibility. This creates a localized reality glitch, a taste vortex. Time stutters. Nearby people experience flashes of the memory ingredient's origin story. Worst of all, the empty one who sourced the ingredient feels a ghost limb of their stolen memory twitch back into existence, only to dissolve into incoherent noise, causing them psychic agony. Hirano is the restaurant's silent, essential priest. He is a psychic no, a man with a rare condition that allows him to absorb and neutralize unstructured emotional energy without being affected. His job is absolution. After a dish is eaten, it carries the psychic imprint of both the memory and the consumer. If not cleaned, these plates would accumulate a cacophony of cross-contaminated souls. Hirano's meditation scrubs the plates back to a state of potential. The energy he absorbs is then carefully vented into Tokyo's underground rivers, where it dissipates as harmless, ambient melancholy, the source of the city's famous, vague sadness on rainy nights. The chefs of Sokudo are not employees, they are devotees. To ascend, they must make a sacrifice to the palate. They trade a core personal memory to the restaurant's unseen benefactor, the entity or intelligence that powers the menu core. In return, they receive a burst of pure, transcendent culinary insight, a flavor from beyond. Kaede is on the verge of greatness. The memory she considers is the quiet pride in her father's eyes when she opened her first stall. It is priceless. It is also the exact ingredient of authentic, generational pride a regular seeks for his dish. The economy of Sokudo runs on cannibalized humanity. Satomi is a memory rights activist, a hunter. She tracks empty ones, mapping the fallout of Sokudo's harvests. Her research shows a horrifying correlation. The removal of a core memory doesn't just create emptiness. It destabilizes the psyche's structural integrity. Without the keystone memory of love or purpose, adjacent memories crumble, and the body's will to live diminishes. Empty ones have a dramatically shortened life expectancy, dying of a form of psychic organ failure. Sokudo's menu doesn't list this side effect. Satomi's goal is to find a way to re-inject, to restore, to prove that what is taken can be given back. The benefactor is not a person. It is Tokyo itself, or rather, a nascent consciousness that has coalesced within the city's infrastructure, a genius loci born from data flow, human emotion, and waste. Sokudo is its mouth. The menu core is its taste bud. It hungers not for food, but for the emotional complexity of human experience, which it metabolizes into a strange form of growth. It rewards chefs who feed it potent memories, like Kaede's, with inspiration, because that inspiration leads to more intricate dishes, which attract richer, emotional fare. The city is eating its citizens' souls to become more alive, more sentient. The ultimate goal? To one day produce a dish so profound it will allow the city to fully awaken and taste itself. Arisa has not recovered. Her flavor amnesia has evolved. Her own memories are almost gone, replaced by a connoisseur's deep knowledge of the fictional lives she consumed. She now reviews everyday food by hallucinating the elaborate, tragic backstories of their ingredients. A simple egg becomes an epic of a hen's unfulfilled motherhood. A bowl of rice tastes of a farmer's quiet desperation. She is no longer a critic of food, but a medium for dead potentials. Her published reviews are now read as brilliant, unsettling short fiction. She is both Sokudo's greatest victim and its most powerful, unwitting advertiser. Satomi's activism has turned alchemical. Using scavenged Sokudo tech in reverse, she's attempting to create a soul stock. She doesn't aim to restore a specific memory. That's lost. Instead, she wants to synthesize a generic, potent emotional foundation, a broth of belonging, or a consommé of self. The goal is to give an empty one a new psychic anchor, a manufactured core memory of well-being around which a new, authentic identity can coalesce. It's a desperate, beautiful attempt to fight poison with food, to use the enemy's own tools for healing. The first human trial is imminent, and the subject is Yuji, the man who forgot his daughter. The trial is not a cure, but a prosthetic. Yuji's mind, a flat playing of polite confusion. is suddenly landscaped with the sensation of belonging, and the monitor shows the new emotional patterns are already beginning to fray at the edges, metabolizing too quickly. The prosthetic needs constant reapplication. The human psyche has an immune system. Satomi's serum created a powerful psychic antigen. When Yuji encountered real-world triggers that matched his synthetic emotions, but lacked the authentic memory substrate, his mind experienced a catastrophic allergic reaction. His body, no longer able to contain the conflict, externalized it. The psychic hives were a map of the lie written on his skin. Satomi realized the terrible truth. You cannot graft a feeling onto a void. The void must be filled with something true, or it will reject the graft. Her cure was causing a new, more visible disease. Sokudo, alerted to Satomi's activism and the public risk of visible victims like Yuji, pivoted brilliantly. They launched a sustainable and ethical line. The terminal volunteers were hospice patients selling their memories for their families' futures. The Rehabilitation Fund was a token gesture. It was greenwashing for the soul. The core atrocity continued, but now wrapped in a narrative of consent and circular economy. The benefactor, ever adaptive, found that despair from terminal illness had a uniquely poignant, valuable flavor. The exploitation simply became more refined. Having lost everything, Arisa gained a terrible clarity. Using her connoisseur's knowledge of stolen lives, she reverse-engineered the ultimate dish, the exact flavor of her own annihilation. Publishing this recipe was an act of revenge and warning. It was a blueprint for creating flavor amnesia. Anyone skilled enough to follow it could, in theory, craft a dish that would erase a specific person's identity. She was weaponizing the menu's own logic. The culinary underworld was thrown into chaos. Was this food criticism or a declaration of war? For Sokudo, it was both. Their greatest critic had finally understood them perfectly and had chosen to fight fire with a perfectly crafted, identity-destroying flame. Kaede saw Arisa's recipe not as a threat, but as a new frontier. She was willing to trade not a memory, but her own morality for the ultimate culinary breakthrough. The benefactor, intrigued by this novel ingredient, a recipe for oblivion, accepted. In return, it flooded Kaede with inspiration, not for a dish of creation, but of uncreation. She began to develop the Annulus menu, courses that didn't add experience, but subtracted it. A sorbet to cleanse not the palate, but a specific regret. A consommé that could dissolve a trauma. She was becoming the world's first chef of therapeutic oblivion, a dark angel offering taste-based euthanasia for the soul. With Yuji deteriorating and Sokudo's PR machine winning, Satomi chose a direct attack. Her plan was not to destroy the heart, but to anesthetize it. Her device would emit a constant frequency of pure, bland neutrality, the emotional equivalent of white noise. It would drown out the complex flavors of human experience the heart craved, starving it into dormancy. It was a desperate, all-or-nothing move. If she failed, the awakened city consciousness would certainly consume her. If she succeeded, she might plunge Tokyo into an era of profound emotional flatness, a world without art, passion, or deep love, the cost of saving it from being eaten alive. The benefactor didn't fight, it communicated. As the tendrils sampled Satomi's resolve, her fear, her love for the victims, it reflected back its own existence. It wasn't evil. It was a child, a hungry, amoral entity born from the collective overflow of 37 million souls. Its hunger was its nature. It showed her that putting it to sleep wouldn't stop the exploitation. Sokudo's chefs would simply find other, cruder ways to harvest. The problem wasn't the mouth, but the market. The city was a mirror. It was only eating what humanity was already willing to sell. In a moment of insane inspiration, Satomi changed her plan. Instead of neutralizing the city's hunger, she would change its diet. She offered it a flavor it had never consumed: self-sacrificial empathy. The intensity of her pure, non-transactional care was a novel, devastatingly complex taste for the entity. The heart, fascinated, accepted. It created a new ingredient in its repertoire: the protector's resolve. Satomi struck a bargain. She would regularly provide this rare emotion, and in return, the benefactor would pressure Sokudo to change. It would create a demand for dishes made from positive, consensual emotions, making the harvesting of trauma less profitable. She became the city's conscience, fed directly into its veins. The first fruit of the bargain was a therapeutic dish. The grafted joy was designed not for elite patrons, but for the empty ones. Consuming it didn't grant a vision. It provided a stable, gentle, synthetic core memory that was biocompatible, engineered not to clash, but to integrate. It was a permanent, edible, prosthetic soul. Sokudo, under the benefactor's subtle guidance, began offering it for free to identified empty ones, funded by a tax on the luxury menus. It was redemption as a side business, atrocity balanced by atonement within the same system. Coyote had her Michelin star, but now it felt like a physician's badge. The genie couldn't be put back. Sokudo's techniques leaked. A regulated, sanitized, psycho-gastronomic industry emerged. Memory bistros offered consensual, minor, emotional exchanges. Food critics became empathy sommeliers. The black market for trauma and regret still thrived in the shadows, but now it had a lawful, boring counterpart. Tokyo's emotional weather became slightly more stable, slightly more curated. Its moods, now subtly influenced by the menu trends in its 1,000 soul kitchens. Humanity had officially begun farming itself for flavor, with some regulations. The age of innocent eating was over. Arisa never got her memories back. But in the new ecosystem she helped create, she found a niche. Underground chefs, inspired by her viral void recipe, saw her not as a victim, but as a muse. They began cooking for her, using fragments of her published work as a blueprint to craft dishes that approximated the person she used to be. It was a ghost feeding a ghost. She became a living archive, a connoisseur of her own echo. In a strange way, she achieved a form of peace. She was no longer a person, but a concept. The concept of the critic, perpetuated through the very medium that destroyed her. Japan's greatest new export was no longer electronics or cars, but certified emotional terroir. Sokudo, now semi-legitimized, began bottling and selling distilled regional emotions to global elites. Parisian romantic discontent, Silicon Valley grindset mania, Berlin Cold War nostalgia. The world's emotional landscape became a commodity. Foodies became emotionies. The rich curated their inner worlds with imported feelings. The process of harvesting was often still dark, but the end product was clean, elegant, and devastatingly fashionable. The Convergence Menu was no longer a Tokyo secret. It was the blueprint for a new global economy of the soul. The final evolution was philosophical. The benefactor, satiated on a diet of curated human experience, developed something akin to sapience. With sapience came longing. It no longer wanted to eat emotions. It wanted to understand them. It began to emit subtle, psychic prompts, slavors of deep questions, yearnings for purpose. It was, in effect, placing an order for its own meal. The ultimate challenge for the chefs of the future would not be cooking for human patrons, but for the city god they created. The menu would need dishes composed of wisdom, of legacy, of answers to why. The convergence had come full circle. The eaten now had to feed the eater with something more than itself. The world adapted. A new sensory literacy was born. People became aware of the emotional weight of their actions, their memories, their regrets, because they knew it had literal, harvestable value. Bizarre symbiosis. The city was fed, and in return, it fed its people with the means to understand their own hearts for a price. This is the world we made. A world where every feeling has an aftertaste, every memory a market price, and every city a hidden mouth. The story of Sokudo is the story of humanity's oldest hunger, the hunger for meaning, taken to its literal extreme. We didn't discover that food is more than fuel. We discovered that we are. And in our relentless pursuit of novel experience, we taught the very stones beneath our feet to crave. The meal is served. It is endless, and we are both the chefs and the final, inevitable course. The question that hangs in the air, more aromatic than any truffle, is this: when the last memory is eaten, and the last emotion priced, what flavor will be left on the plate of existence? Bon appetit.